and I think, you know, you have funny moments working on a movie. You have ideas about it, and then you get in on the day, and things kind of open up, or happen in unexpected ways that sometimes actually alter your sense of it. Like, you know, I had certain ideas about Ray's relationship to his dad, and, you know, how invested he is or not in his dad's view of things, you know, blah blah. But then you get it. We did this you know, family holiday dinner, and it was and John Voight like did this stuff in the scene that wasn't, you know, it wasn't scripted in any way. It wasn't like it wasn't scripted, and nor it wasn't really scripted that he was, you know, a few drinks past
his legal limit.
The legal limit throughout that whole sort of holiday sequence, and he was doing it. And at first, you know, I was reacting to it. I thought it was funny. Choice at first, and then we got sort of down into the scene, and we were like shooting the scene, and all of a sudden, like all this emotion starts coming off of John. You know, he starts really like having this very profound reaction and saying all these things about his family, you know, at the table. And it was really like I walked out with Colin at one point, and I was like that changes the whole movie. What he just did, I mean, in the best way. Like, I really thought, like, that completely alters my whole feeling about the way, you know, I really felt like it changed or deepened, you know. It deepened, yeah. I don't mean changed in a bad way. I mean it like.
But it complicated that thing between like the police versus his own family.
Yeah.
Because you can see all that pride coming out of the.
Yeah, I guess what I should say is like things that were conceptual for me. That I felt like we were playing at, like he did. You know, we did this one scene, and all of a sudden, like this whole like well, like appeared under everything we were doing. You know, it was like I felt like the stakes, like the whole, all of a sudden, all the stakes of the movie were really clear to me. You know, like we talked about all these things all through rehearsal. We talked about it and everything, and we shot this one scene. And at the end of the scene, I was like, the stakes in this whole movie just tripled. You know, like in the sense that everything, you know, that's going to happen is going to destroys what John just laid out. You know what I mean? Like, and it was amazing. It was actually really notable. For me, it was like one of the most notable just experiences making the movie. It was fantastic. Like,
I think for a lot of people, it was the only scene in the film, and this is also sort of cognizant of. It's the only scene in the movie where we have the family in one room together. And in writing the scene, I never knew how to. I always knew what I wanted the tenor of the film, of the scene to be, and also the importance of understanding the patriarch and his, his legacy, the way his family views him, and his pride in his kids. And when I had the camera on John, and John and I talked about whether this man was an alcoholic, and we had a lot of conversations about that and where to actually use that. Okay. But so I had said to John, I said, John, I'm just going to roll. I said, just talk about your kids. Now, we had done so much work, biographical work, on the characters that everyone was pretty clear about who these people were, and there was a history that we had worked out. And I just said, talk about your kids. And that's what he did. And that's what came out. And what was so beautiful about it was I was rolling a couple of cameras, is these guys had never heard it because it was the first time he was saying it. So it was very truthful and spontaneous, and everyone was just like, they heard their dad talking about them, and It was beautiful. John gave a master class that night because it was one of the first scenes we shot with him, and it sort of it sort of set up the dynamic, especially if I think, well, for these two, for their characters, it just set up the dynamic of where in the pecking order of this family and how they view their dad, and then knowing where the road is taking them, how they have to sort of confront their father in a way that they've never done before because their father gave them the marching orders, and it was a lot of, they were dad's little soldiers in a lot of ways.
Do you want to know? Because part of that, to me, that scene comes out where you're the one who sort of sacrificed your blue family for your home, and your job has kind of suffered for that. You've taken care of your wife, so you've made a commitment to your other family,
right?
And your professional life has kind of gotten away from you.
It's funny, I mean, I guess I see what you mean from one perspective, although I never quite saw it exactly that way. Oh. I saw maybe some of my professional responsibility in terms of oversight has gotten away from me. I feel like I'm doing actually a really good job at my house, at the precinct, rather. My home life is clearly distracting and burdening me. So I think that for me, that was always one of the things that that sort of motivated Franny to sort of give a little bit more autonomy to Colin Farrell's character to take care of business. Like we need to have, because that's ever since the modern NYPD has something called ComStat, which is a report they have every week. They have to report to the bosses how many arrests, how many crimes. So it's all about statistics now. So the pressure on the commanding officers of the NYPD is to meet the numbers. It's all about how many burglaries, how many robbings, how many arrests, how many convictions. And I feel like Francis was trying to meet those numbers, and he didn't have maybe because of what was happening in his home life. He didn't have the rigorous sort of oversight that he maybe should have had to keep his house in order. And that's what started to things began to unravel out of his control slightly. But I didn't see him as sort of shirking his blue family.
Okay.
But I mean,
I just thought you have to make a decision because you only have so much time.
Right.
So there's a question here. Please.
Hi, it's John Powell from Cineplex. I was wondering, since you work so closely with the police in putting together the movie, was there any kind of fear that things would swing the other way, that you might have to live up to maybe what they had thought? And I also want to know from Noah and Edward, did it give you a greater appreciation of the gray area that these people work in from day to day, the decisions they have to make, and sometimes things are not always black and white?
You want me to go first?
I'll go first.
What was my question again?
Just about the police, the relationship with them. Did you feel any kind of obligation to them since they work so closely with them?
No. I mean, my feeling always is, and these guys are the same way. It's always about serving the movie. The movie is God. The movie's religion. The movie. We're all down here. It's a great way of taking egos and leaving them at home, and we're at the altar of this film that we're trying to, and the story we're trying to tell. So everything after that, it's just having if the cops understand that it's coming from a place of being respectful and actually sort of in an archaeological way trying to get to the truth. We weren't exploiting anything. There was nothing gratuitous. It was honest, and we were all like investigative journalists trying to understand what they do in the most penetrating and deep way, and that informed the material, because what started was this blueprint of a script that we just kept digging deeper and deeper and deeper. And Edward has a lot of ideas, and once you and I embrace that, because when you ask questions, it forces you to come up with answers, and if the answer isn't appropriate, so we were all challenging the script, challenging the three of us spent months in my apartment just digging into this thing, and then we go out into the field. These guys would go out and talk to cops, and they'd come back and they're like, what do you think of this? And maybe this doesn't feel right. Let's try this. And it became a community sort of effort in the realization of the movie.
Here's a question. There you are. Hi.
Hi, Jackie Rosen from 680 News. My question basically is, other than trying to get into the mind of a police officer, were there any other special things that you had to do to prepare for the movie, both Noah and Edward?
Well, the mind is a pretty encompassing thing. So, I mean, I guess that getting into the mind implies a lot of different things. It's understanding the rhythms of their life, the dilemmas of their life, how they manage family and job. It's sort of connecting it to the question that you asked about, did it change my perspective or understanding of their jobs? And it certainly did. It profoundly sort of increased my respect and empathy for the dilemmas that they confront. I mean, these